Other news at this hour, economic divide filters down to technological division. This comes as many still can't access digital devices because of how expensive that they remain. Head of Industry Association Communication and Technology, I Phila Sithole, says that South Africa's economic inequality needs to be sorted for accessible technology to all. Sithole did speak to SABC News reporter Nompumelelo Siziba at the SATNAC 2023 conference in Drakensburg, KwaZulu-Natal. Take a look.
Thanks very much for joining us here at the SATNAC gathering, where the issue of artificial intelligence is taking center stage. Of course, we've spoken to many other people before, but I'm joined by one gentleman who's really passionate about the digital divide and ensuring that we bridge it here in South Africa, given the socio-economic woes that we have in the country. I'm joined by I Phila Sithole. He's the head of Industry Association of Comms and Technology. Thank you so much, Phila, for joining me. Now, you're very passionate about the issue of AI and the digital divide. As South Africa moves more towards using more AI, what are the important issues that you feel need to be addressed in terms of the digital divide?
Yeah, thank you very much. When we're talking about digital divide, there's a number of dimensions, to it. Actually, the digital divide is really a link of information that makes you have access to it. So if you have a disparity in terms of socio-economic disparity, cultural disparity, development in AI doesn't really, as we stand, for a number of years that we're coming from, able to assist us in terms of making those communities to be, to be accessible. But what we've seen now in SATNAC, the development that we've had and the capability that we now have in terms of AI, is that we are able to solve some of those, issues that it makes it easy for people who are excluded in terms of languages. We can now integrate languages, we can now interpret languages, and they can able to access opportunities via the tools that we make available to them.
Now, I want us to move away from being too abstract and too high level in terms of what the issues are and bring it down to practical examples. Of course, you just spoke about, for example, the hearing issue, but what other practical examples are there where there's a true digital divide, and what are some of the solutions there too?
Yeah, one of the key factors that has been there for years is that people who have disability, especially hearing, disability. Years back, the regulator ICASA issued the Code of People with Disability that we should be able to include them in terms of electronic communication. They should be able to have emergency calls like all of us. They should be able to use devices like all of us. And now, with the tools that we are now able to use to have in terms of AI, we can now able to interpret voice and turn it to text that they can able to read and able to see. We can able to interpret sign languages and able to be available for them. Therefore, they can able to easy access to education, socio-economic inclusion in terms of business. They can able to run business like all of us and able to do their day-to-day jobs in terms of healthcare services. You can able to communicate with everybody that me and you is actually very easy to communicate. But for them, now they have these kind of tools that we can now use and integrate into our communication systems.
This is very positive what you're saying, but what about the issue of accessibility and affordability? Because there's the problem and there's a solution, which you say is readily available. But can everybody really readily afford to get hold of the technology that they need in order to live a better life?
Yeah, you see, this is when we're talking about digital divide, it's also include the economic divide, because you cannot solve one part of the problem and leave the other. So you have to able to have a holistic approach to some of the barriers that are there for all people, in terms of digital divide, in terms of infrastructure, for example, the urban versus the rural areas, people who are vulnerable, people who are homeless, for example, people who are, don't have access to jobs. So what is really there that we need to solve with the technologies is that we need to be able to have affordable devices that are easy to access, that we can able to manufacture locally. So there's still a lot of investment that is actually are needed. But what we're seeing now, the cost of doing that with the innovation that we now have, that has now come down, and now devices we can actually able to make them affordable. And actually one of the examples that I can even make is that some of the applications that we now have, because you can have a device, a cheaper device, but you can have a powerful application integrated into that a particular device that is able to do amazing things, that it can give you access to some of the information in terms of education. You can able to diagnose in terms of your health status. You can able to access government services instead of traveling for a long distance. Now, if you have powerful applications that we can able to do, given the services that we know that we require, we can able to have those kind of devices that are affordable but integrate powerful applications for powerful access of people to use those kind of services.